What's up everybody, Calcris here, back with another Dragon Ball Super deck profile video. That's a lot of words, and today I'm going to be going over probably one of my favorite leaders in a while that's not yellow, which is actually the Gogeta Xeno leader, or Son Goku and Vegeta on this side. I really like this idea of this leader. I've been testing it a few times, I've done a ton of test hands, I've looked at multiple videos, and there's actually not a lot of content out for this leader yet. I think it's because the TPs are kind of needed with this leader, and I do have I am running one of the TPs as a proxy in here, so I'm running a proxy as one of the TPs in here, and I will go over it and kind of explain as to why it is good. But actually I'm going to, since I have everything up here, I'm actually just going to pull up the both of the TPs, and I'll have them on screen so you guys can look at them, so you guys can get an idea. And honestly, both TPs I think one's more needed than the other one. One is definitely needed as a 4 of. The other one not so much. It's maybe a 1 or a 2 of. The deck itself runs very, very well, and you guys will see that. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. I will leave a deck list down below once I get around to making it, and you guys can check it out and let me know what you guys think. So Son Goku and Vegeta, this is like the king of all Xeno decks for all the Saiyan cards. It's basically what we're playing in this deck. It's just nothing but Xeno cards. You have your main activate main, which is you can banish up to 5 cards from top of your deck to your warp. So it's a little bit different than a burst leader. So very, very different than Vegex, different than the Super Saiyan 4 Goku leader. So you're just sending your cards directly to your warp. Now, doing this, you have to be careful because you're going to warp away some very important cards. But a lot of the cards that you have in this deck do work from the warp, which is the idea of this deck. Now, when you activate a Union Fusion ability, you do get to draw a card. That is on both this side and on your Awaken side. And you can Awaken at 4 life. And you also, whenever this card swings, you also can take a life. So you draw 1, take a life, and then you are able to kind of self-awaken yourself. Then on this side here, Son Goku and Vegeta become Gogeta, the Fateful Fusion. So this side, when you attack, you get to do the banish up to 5 to your warp. You still have the ability to draw whenever you activate a Union Fusion, and then you can activate main, you can take a life, and then give 2 of your black battle cards with an energy cost of 1, 10k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. That is very, very important. We will go over why once we get here into the deck. So this is one of the leaders I think you could probably get away with running a 60 card deck, just because you want to have as many options as possible, and since you're going to be warping a lot of cards. But that's just, I guess, dependent on opinion there. So we have we'll start with all the 1-drops. So we have first 1-drops here are going to be the Vegeta and Goku Catastrophic Premonition. So we have 4 of each. These cards are both 1-drops and unique. Goku has double strike, Vegeta has crit. Now they're both 5Ks, but both of them have an activate auto that can activate once per turn. Goku's is whenever your opponent adds a card to their hand from a non-leader skill, this card gains 10k until the end of your next turn. Vegeta, whenever your opponent plays a battle card with a higher energy cost than its current energy, he gains 10k until the end of your next turn. So, theoretically, you can play this on your turn, and let's say you swing with your leader or whatever. Let's say they add a card to their hand somehow. He would gain 10k. So then on your opponent's turn, let's say your opponent adds a card to their hand from a non-leader skill. He will gain 10k. So then on your turn, he will now be a base 25k until the end of your turn. And then at the end of your turn, he would lose both of those stats. Now let's say during that turn, your opponent adds another card, so then he becomes a 35k. So that current buff of 10, he actually would keep until the end of your next turn. The other 2, because he had them before this turn, he would lose. Kind of confusing. This deck, you have to bring in a lot of dice because a lot of your cards are going to have dice on them. It's a very strange mechanic, but it is very annoying when your opponent is staring down a 35k or 25k double striker that's a 1 cost that you haven't done anything with, and just because they're drawing cards, you're getting the benefit out of it. Vegeta currently is not as in most matchups is not as powerful currently. He has the ability to be, especially with Arrival, But there's a lot of people who are just not playing out a lot of cards higher than their energy cost. That's kind of a lie. In some matchups they are. In some matchups they're not. But this card here can actually force your opponent to play around it where they're not going to want to play out bigger battle cards sometimes, depending on what the card actually is, obviously. But same thing with him. If he goes on your turn and your opponent played a card higher than their energy cost twice, he's now 25k on your turn. He's a 25k crit, and that's incredibly powerful. Not to mention, your leader can give them 10k. So these cards can get extremely powerful. These cards can actually get to SCR level, power level, off of basically you spending no energy. It's very, very powerful. So these are your demolition guys. These are the ones you're going to be playing out to hammer at your opponent. Now we have the utility versions of Goku and Vegeta. We have Goku and Vegeta True Fighting Spirit. So Vegeta is kind of the worst one in this tandem here, currently in this meta. They both have deflect, both 5Ks. Both of them have the ability to attack, take a life, and gain 10k until the end of the turn, which is important. Is it until the end of the turn? Yeah, it's until the end of the turn, which is important. But their autos once per turn are the more important thing here. So for Vegeta's, there we go. Okay, so for Vegeta's, let me make sure I'm reading it right because some of the cards I have messed up. Your leader is a Black Saiyan. When your opponent switches an energy to active mode with a non-awakened skill, they choose one card in their hands and into the warp. So if your opponent is basically blue, this card is nuts. Your opponent activates Senzu Bean. They activate a D-Magic. They activate anything that restands energy by a non-awakened skill. So this card even outs Soul Striker, just like instantly. Because you can play this, and if Soul Striker cannot remove this card, every time they swing, they can't restand energy. It just can't happen. Because then they have to warp a card. Because it says non-awakened skills. So it doesn't say anything about leader skills. It just says non-awakened skills. So very, very powerful. Goku, whenever your opponent activates a counter skill, they have to warp a card from their hand. This is the better one. This is probably going to be the silver bullet, so to speak. I don't see this card ever getting maybe banned. I don't really know. It's fair because it doesn't have barrier, it doesn't have anything else like that, but it has the flex, so it can't be counterplayed unless it's like a Frieza or something. But it has no barrier, it has no other sort of defense. So once it's on the field, your opponent can remove it. The problem is that both of these do not have unique. So because they don't have unique, you can play out 4 of these. Opponent activates a counter skill, they're dropping 4 cards from their hand to the warp. Same thing with this, they're warping 4 cards. So they have a lot of power, a lot of power. But yeah, so we run a full set of 8 Vegeta and Goku because you do want to see one of these targets here. And I'll kind of go over a perfect mill or perfect banish for turn 1, or what you want to see in your hand turn 1. I'll kind of go over that after this. So I do run 2 more Goku and Vegetas. Joking, I only run 2 Gokus. Making an entrance, this deck does utilize energy very, very well. So there are turns where you have energy up just for, just because. And it's good to have battle card negates. I think battle card negates are becoming a thing again, where battle card negates actually were bad for a really, really long time. I think they are I think they are pretty good. I wish these were 5k combos, but whatever. But yeah, it is another Goku Vegeta search, so you can use it with your Goku and Vegetas, but also it's just a 1-drop that just negates, and you can remove it off the field or whatever. It's 0k combo power, so you're never going to combo with it. And then we run the Saiyan Transcendence, which we can evolve on top of this, or any of the other Gokus that we have. You can only play this on turn 4 and above, so it's not amazing, but it is a 5k combo, so it's not like it's ever really dead. We can just combo it away. But you can evolve on top of a Son Goku Xeno for 1 energy. Now you have a 25k double strike on board, where you can take up to 4 black battle cards from your warp and put it back on your drop area. It is very important because we do run Overwhelm in the deck. So, very, very powerful card. Now, the one problem with this card, and so the one problem with this, and it may be one of the reasons why we don't run it, because we do run Champa in this deck. So if you have any non-black battle cards in areas other than your deck, hand, or life, you can't play this card from any area. So that's kind of the only problem with it. So it may end up getting cut for that reason. I have yet to find an issue with it because I've been able to play around it. Because I think I only run maybe one Champa in the deck. Yeah, I think I only run one Champa in the deck. So whichever one actually, you know, seem to be working less, I can probably just take it out. I may just take out Champa and put in another card, which I do have other options that can go in the deck. So, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. Now we go into the Gogeta stuff. So we have 4 of the Fearless Fusions and 3 currently of the Marvelous Mites. So these 2 are your standard Gogeta fusions. I think the proper combination is 4-4. I definitely think having 4 of these are the best, and then running 2 of the tournament TPs, which I will go over in this video. Actually, I'll go over after I'm talking about these. So both of these can evolve from a Goku and Vegeta for 1 black energy, and when choosing targets, you can choose targets from your warp instead of your hand. And if you activate cards from your warp, you can place them in your drop area, which allows you to fuel your drop area for your overwhelm. Now, when you do that, you also get to draw a card off your leader skill. That's once per turn. And this Gogeta here is your 16k blocker that also warps a 4 or less ignoring barrier. That's very, very, very strong. You have some decent removal, getting rid of pesky 1-drop barrier cards, or just a very important defensive piece, maybe a Black Mass Saiyan. So this deck works very, very well against that. Even Crisis Crusher, because Crisis Crusher is going to be a very easy out to this deck. People are just going to play Crisis Crusher. Now, you can't attack with any of your 1-drops. So you want to play this, pop the Crisis Crusher, get rid of it, and now you have a 16k blocker on board. This card here, Marvelous Might, is a 20k barrier. Comes out for 1, same thing. No real attack stats, but has an activate main for 1 black, where you can bottom deck this card and then play out 1 Goku and Vegeta from your drop or your warp with an energy cost of 1. So you get to basically fuse into this to draw a card, attack, then defuse, and then play out a Goku and Vegeta. So it allows you to basically take turn 1 attack into 3 attacks, and then you can go wide. Very, very powerful. But I definitely think running 4 of this is the sauce. Currently I only have 3, but I will be getting a 4th one. The TP card is called Martial Melee. It's a 3 energy. Well, it is a 6-drop 25k, but it's 3 energy instead of 1, and it's colorless, so you can use any color. Same kind of fusion target though. But when you play it as a 25k double strike that you can restand once per turn by putting a Goku and Vegeta from your warp to your drop. So it's basically like you're using Union Fusion twice in 1 turn. So you're Union Fusion to play it out, then you swing, then you can activate main to basically do the Union Fusion ability again to restand it. Even though it's an active main, it's the same thing as the ability, because you're sending a Goku and Vegeta to your drop. So that card is definitely at least a 2 of. I think anything more than that, you're I guess just adding it just for the look. Because with it being a 3-drop, it's not, you want to play a lot of cards really, really cheap in this deck. So if you see everything costs 1 energy, and the reason is you don't want to play out a bunch of extra stuff unless you're going for game that turn. So 2 of them is fine. Being a dual attack double strike 25k is very, very good for 3 energy. So it just depends on the matchup, truthfully. So like I said, 4 of these, 2 of the Martial Melees is definitely the best. Truthfully, if we were to get the Martial Melees, I would just take these 2 out, and then I think that's what it's called, Martial Melee. You take these 2 out and then just add the TPs. And I don't think you really need to change anything else with the packages there. This card here is the other. This is the proxy for the other TP card, which is a Supreme Kai. It is called Supreme Kai, Summon from Another Dimension. So if your leader is a black only Saiyan, you can send this card from your warp to the bottom of your deck, and you get to play out a unison with energy cost of no specific energy cost and 15k power. And if you don't have a unison in play, it basically just adds a marker to it. This card is a must. You guys will see when we go over the unison here that the the ability to sack your unison to play cards out and then bring your unison back for free just allows you to go wide and go tall at the same time. So I'll keep this card here. Actually, I won't keep this card here. I'll just keep the other card on screen for a second. But the unison is going to be the PyCon Savior from Another Dimension. This card is very cheap, very cheap, but this is very, very good with the TP card. So it is a 15k, cannot attack unless it has 3 markers on it. So if it has 2 or less, it cannot attack. +1, you can choose two of your black battle cards at an energy cost of 1 and give them 10k power to the end of your opponent's next turn, which is the same effect that your leader gives. The -3, you can choose a 6-drop battle card, black battle card with a Union Fusion skill and play from your drop area or your warp. Does not activate Union Fusion, but it just plays that card. So if you warp this card, you have this card in your drop or your warp. That's great. I think it has to be in your warp though, right? No, hand or warp. Yeah, so you can play the PyCon from your hand or your warp with this effect. So you bottom deck this card, play this card out, and you +1, and then you can give 2 of your black battle cards 10k until the end of your opponent's next turn. So you can give any of your 1-drops, give either one of those. You can give the Vegeta, you can give the other Vegeta that's in here somewhere, that guy, making a mess here. You can give that guy. So you can give any of those guys plus 10k for until the end of your opponent's next turn. So basically for the rest of your turn and your opponent's turn, they'll have 10k. Mixing that with your leader ability, mixing that with their actual abilities. So, his ability or his ability, because these are the 2 main ones, obviously. Being able to make these guys a base 15k off of PyCon, taking a life, making these guys base 25k, and then swinging with this one. And if your opponent decides to super combo, he gains 10k during the battle because it's an auto. Now he's a 35k double strike. Same thing with this guy. You can make him a base 25k crit. It's very, very good pressure. Thankfully these are unique, because if they were unique, this deck would be even better than it is. But another really good thing that you can do is using the -3. So if you have three markers on this card, my best bet is to swing with it, especially if you can swing into a unison or something, just to get rid of it. And -3, play out like Marvelous Might. You can play out the blocker guy, get the effect. And then once you do that, then if you have this in the drop area after you overwhelm or you do something, or if you have another one in the warp already, you can then activate this, bring this back out, and then +1. So then you can give 2 of your 10Ks +1, and you did all of that with no energy. So a typical like turn 3 turn would be having this out with 3 markers on it. So let's say we've been awoken. It doesn't really matter, honestly. You -3 on this, or you swing first, -3, play this guy out, draw the card, then swing it with this guy, -1, bottom deck this card, play out 2 of these. This guy's in the drop. We overwhelm, do whatever, or we have this card already in the warp. We bottom deck our Kai to then play this guy back out, +1, give these guys 10k, and that's just off of 1 energy. That's not mentioning anything else we have on the field, because these also too are not once per turn. These are not unique, so you can play out multiple if you want. Your awaken turn should be turn 3, typically turn 4 even. The longer you wait to awaken and you have 4 life, the more pressure you can put on your opponent. So if you can awaken if you can use a Union Fusion on your unawakened skill first to draw a card, then awaken, draw another card, restand, play another Union Fusion, then draw another card, and then do all this stuff, you could have there's been games where I've had a whole board, my whole board goes away. I can then play my entire board out of like 4 or 5 cards with 1 energy. It's really nuts. It's really, really powerful. So that's that. We'll go into the super combos for the deck. I have the Goku combos. If you have the Vegeta combos, because they are 5k, those actually would be amazing. I believe with Patara or with Fusion, they have to have the same power level, I believe. Yeah, I think they have the same power level. So because he's a 5k, he works with all of your 5ks. This one doesn't, unfortunately. So, and truthfully, that is the better super combo anyways, because you can bottom deck a card and then draw 2. This one's just a draw at 4 life, so that one's definitely better. But too bad it's like $10 for you know, an unfoiled rare. So I'm not spending $10 on that card. I'll wait for it to go down. 2 tag team Gohans. Since a lot of our cards are going to be leaving the battle area, especially with the Marvelous Might, you can play this card out for free. If they decide to pop something, you can play it out for free. You have a 15k blocker, or you can just keep pushing for damage. And you can only have one of these out on the field at once. So once one leaves, I believe you can play this off of it, because once it's removed from the field, it's no longer in play. You can play it off of it. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. 1 Protect for the People, just for a good extra card that can negate. For Power Burst, because that is a really good card in this deck, because you can pull back like almost 60% of your deck. So for the Overrealm, so we have 2 Time Regulator. This is a really good Overrealm because it's an Overrealm 3, so you don't have to have a lot of cards in the drop. You play this card out, you draw 2, and then you warp a card. So you get to put a card back into your warp, hopefully it's a Goku or Vegeta, and then you get to draw 2 cards. And it's a free 15k swing after that. This is really good because once you pop Pikkon or Pikkon dies, we need to get him into the warp ASAP. So being able to Overrealm really early puts Pikkon in the warp. We can then use Supreme Kai to bring him back out and then do all of our stuff. So we have 2 of those. We have 1 Time Patrol, because I couldn't find my 3rd Time Regulator apparently, so I need to order one, I guess. This card is not bad. It's an Overrealm 3. You get to choose 2 cards on top of your deck and then take 1. So any card, and then bottom deck the other one. That's not that bad, actually. So it's a good option on there. And then our Overrealm 4, we run the Bardock. Same idea, though. To draw 2, pitch 1 to the drop. Same thing, though. We want to be able to have a Overrealm turn at least once. We at least want to be able to Overrealm every turn after turn 2. Just because it gives us so much value. Being able to just draw extra cards, fill up our drop area, or fill up our warp, and then play out our unisons again, because our opponent's going to be trying to kill our unison, because that's like the main pressure piece in the deck. So Bardock does have a little bit of a usage later in this deck, or at the end of this deck. So 2 for the Destruction Champas currently. After kind of some evaluation with the... I've been going back and forth with it. Like I said, so far I haven't run into an issue where I've been hitting this card in my warp. But if I do, you can always do Kraken Spacetime instead. Instead of being able to give 10k double strike to a battle card, you can just give 15k and double strike to your leader, which isn't bad. So I definitely think this is probably better than the Further Destruction Champa. But this is just kind of an impromptu change I'm making as I'm doing the deck profile. So if you're finding that you're hitting this card off of your warp consistently, just take it out and just run the Kraken Spacetime. Just better option, I guess. So we have those, and then we have 1 SS4 Fighting Against Fate. This card is nuts. So it's an Overrealm 6, 25k dual attack. I think this is better than Man on a Mission. Man on a Mission is good for 6 Overrealm. It's a 20k double strike crit. Yeah, that's okay. If it gets negated, you know, it's not putting any more pressure. And this being a dual attack, you swing once, they negate, that's fine. You just restand this bad boy, and then you swing again, and it just puts on so much pressure. Same thing with Secret Identity. That's also probably another really good 6 Overrealm. I wouldn't play Man on a Mission if you have this card here. But this card's really expensive, so if you don't have it, I wouldn't buy it. Now, the last card in the deck is kind of a weird, cheeky tech, but it's going to be the SS3 Bardock, Power Unleashed. This card's not very good. I'm playing it in here because, for one, I don't have a significant secret rare to play in this game, and in this deck. Nor do I think a secret rare is needed in this deck. I think you can play the Supreme Kai at time, which I do have here somewhere in one of these decks. I don't know where it is. Actually, if I can find it here, I'll put it in the video just so you guys can see. Supreme Kai time is probably the best because you don't really have the option of running Smoke Dragon, unfortunately, because Smoke Dragon is, you have to have your drop area filled. There we go. You have to have your drop area filled, and if you have your drop area filled that far, you're not really playing the game correctly, because you need to be overwhelming at least once every offensive turn that you can. So this is probably the best one you can run. It comes out for 1 energy if you have more than 3 energy, and negates your opponent cannot attack with unison or battle cards, or unison or leader cards for the turn, which is pretty good. And then for 1 energy you can warp this card, which then remove this card from the game, and that will also warp your entire opponent's board, not ignoring barrier, but also will warp your opponent's unison. So it's a 40k swing. It's a 40k negate for leader cards and unisons. You can swing with it for the 40k beater, and then pop this card to pop your entire opponent's board, and then pop your opponent's unison. So pretty good. The Super Saiyan 3 Bardock, though, like I said, it is kind of a cheesy turn 5 play. Some decks may fall for it, some may not. The one thing that makes me think it could work in this deck is because of this card here. Is this card here. If you have multiple of these on the field and your opponent does not have a big hand and you've been swinging at your opponent constantly, if they haven't used a counter yet and you play this card, they decide to counter it, you could pop their whole hand, and they kind of have to do that because this card will probably end the game on the spot. So what this card is it is a Xeno evolve for 5 energy. That's a lot of energy, but evolves on top of a Bardock Xeno. So if you guys see here, we have 4 Bardock Xenos here. We have 3 of the 4 overwhelm, and then 1 of the good old promo here. And what this card does, it comes in. You get to put up to 5 black battle cards. No, choose 5 cards in your warp and place them in your drop area. So that's good. So you do get to set up your overwhelm for next turn, but also you place your entire opponent's board in the warp. So let me see what it says here. So if you do, so if your leader is black, you may choose 5 cards from your warp, place them in the drop area. If you do, send all of your opponent's battle cards to the warp. So as ruling is, and I'm sure someone can rule shark in this, I'm sure they will. Ruling states that barrier, you have to choose the card. So when the card is being played, like this, like for the Trunk Chomp, that says you choose a card to give a double strike. You have to choose the card. Or like even Supreme Kai of Time, you choose all of your opponent's battle cards. This card does not choose. It just says send him. So you don't choose your opponent's entire board. It just places the entire board in the drop area. If your opponent has a battle card in their battle area, it fulfills the requirement of this ability, thus sending it to the warp. Meaning, all of this is just a very fancy way of saying this card gets around barrier. By wording, it does. I checked before I made this video. I couldn't find anything about it not ignoring barrier. If someone can find a comment or something that's official about this card not getting around barrier, let me know. But it does get around barrier in my eyes as of right now. That can be changed though. And it's a 30k triple strike. So it's a very, very powerful card. The problem is it's really expensive for 5 energy, and you have to have one of these on a board to do that. So you have to overwhelm first, make sure this card doesn't die, then you play this card out. But the nice thing is that these cards are all free. So, I mean, this is a requirement of 4 overwhelm, this is a requirement of 6. So technically what you can do is you can play, let's say, because this would definitely be the better swing here. So you play this, swing once, they negate, whatever, you play it again, swing, and then Xeno Evolve comes in active mode. So what Xeno Evolve does, you pick the card that's being chosen that goes to the warp, and you play this card out in active mode. So then you play this, then you place 5 cards from your warp, but your warp's going to be gigantic, place them in your drop area, then since you fulfilled that requirement, your opponent warps your entire board. Very, very powerful. So, this deck, you could probably swing 6 to 10 times on your kill turn, generally. And a lot of those swings are going to be double strikes and crit, which makes the deck very, very powerful. So that's just kind of an idea that I have for the deck. Like I said, the one change I would make to this deck as I was making it is going to be adding in this card here, and just going with Kraken Spacetime instead, because I don't really think you need further destruction chop. But as I'm kind of going through this, I just think it's kind of a waste of a card. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. Like I said, I'll leave a deck list with the actual TP promos in there, so you guys can see my actual deck list. Let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.